Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. My name is Meli Amelia. Today, I'm going to present my article journal review about project-based learning. The first journal has a title, How Teaching Science Using Project-Based Learning Strategies Affect the Classroom Learning Environment. The author is Muhammad Hugerat in 2016 in Learning Environment Research, an international journal and published by the Academic Arab College for Education, Israel. For background, Thomas defined the positive side effect of project-based learning for students as the development of positive attitude toward their learning process, routine, problem-solving abilities, and self-esteem. Similarly, Green suggests that participants in project-based learning learn better and are more active in their learning. And for the research question, how do perception of the classroom climate differ among students who learn science according to a project-based learning strategy in comparison with those who learn according to a non-project learning strategy? And for goal, this research has aimed to investigate how learning science through project-based teaching strategy affect the student perception of the science classroom climate. And for the methodology, the first one is participant. The study involved 458 9th grade students from two different Arab middle schools in Israel. 230 students from school were taught according to a project-based learning strategy, and 228 students learned using traditional method or non-project-based learning strategy. For the research tool was a questionnaire that assessed science student perception of their classroom climate. And for the data collection, the questionnaire has a Likert type response scale and consists of 38 items. And Likert type response scale is a method to measure either positive or negative response to a statement. Usually used to assess opinion, attitude, and behavior. The response like agree and disagree, etc. And next, result and discussion. As we can see in the screen, this for the figure 1 and table 3, from the data in table 3 and figure 1, it can be inferred that students who learn science using a project-based learning strategy were significantly more satisfied, enjoyed the class more, and perceived that their teacher was more supportive, and that they perceived teacher-student relationship as being significantly more favorable than those who learn science by frontal, non-project based learning strategy. As we can see in here, the blue one is experimental group and the red one is control group. So we can see the difference between experimental and control group. And for the conclusion, based on the result, it can be concluded the study revealed that students who learn science by project-based teaching method significantly improve student-teacher relationship and enhance student enjoyment. This variable lead to the creation of the positive educational climate that enable the teacher to achieve the lesson objective and the student to benefit. Okay, next journal has a title, Collaborative Project-Based Learning, an Integrative Science and Technological Education Project. The author is Daria Basir, Muhammad Yasar Ozden, and Hassan Kara Aslan in 2017 in Research in Science and Technological Education. For background, project-based learning is a term-focused approach that continuously shapes student knowledge through a project. For blending collaborative learning and project-based learning result in positive outcome for students. And for the collaborative project-based learning has a potential to create learning environment that develop the knowledge and skill required for the 21st century, and the future of the learning environment play a significant role in achieving this potential. For the purpose, the study aimed to understand how 7th grade students perceive a collaborative web-based science project in light of both design categories. Okay, for the methodology, For participant and sampling, the participants of the study were selected through purposeful sampling. A total of 15 7th grade students, 8 female and 7 male, were chosen from the rural K-12 school in Turkey where one researcher teaches IT. And for the research design, the study applied an action research strategy under the qualitative research paradigm to develop student autonomous IT skill, integration skill, collaborative skill through interdisciplinary and collaborative project-based learning. For the data collection and analysis, data were collected qualitatively through interview, observation form receipt, and website evaluation rubric. After the interview were transcribed, they were analyzed through coding technique. As we know that qualitatively analysis, the data generally non-numerical. So for the result and discussion, the result found virtual space such as online tutorial, forum, collaborative and communicative tools to be beneficial for collaborative project-based learning. The study support Wolf design feature for a collaborative project-based learning environment, applying feature appropriate for a rural K-12 school setting and creating a digitally enrichment environment as the forum couldn't be used as effectively as expected because of school limitation, more flexible space independent of time and space were needed. So for the conclusion, the study interdisciplinary collaborative project-based learning was efficient in enhancing student advanced technological and collaborative skill as well as exposing them to practice for integrating technology into science. The study applied a design feature for a collaborative project-based learning environment with certain revision. The next journal has a title, The Effectiveness of Project-Based Learning on Student Communication Skill in Science. The author is S. U. Putri and S. Hidayat in 2019 in Journal of Physics Conference Series. For background theory, communication skills are ability to convey the idea effectively verbally and nonverbal in various forms and contexts. The development of communication skill in science can be carried out in interactive and innovative learning situations such as in project-based learning. Project-based learning can be viewed as the critical strategy that involves students in investigative activities that are carried out collaboratively and lead to the creation of a project that reflects the knowledge they have. For the research question, what is the differences in communication skill between the student taught by using cooperative learning and project-based learning? And for the research aim, analyzing the effectiveness of project-based learning on elementary school student communication skill. For the methodology, the first one is research method. The data were analyzed using quantitative analysis. And for the research subject, the study involved 45 fifth grade students who were divided into experimental group, that is the 24 student, and control group, 21 student. For the research procedure, both classes were given a pretest to identify student communication skill before learning. The experimental group were instruction by using project-based learning, while the control group using cooperative learning. At the end of the learning process, the two groups were given a post-test. For the data analysis, the data were analyzed using n-gain and non-parametric tests or man-Whitney. This is the table one, that is criteria of n-gain score. So for the result and discussion, the data analysis of n-gain score in the control and experiment group, the improvement of student communication skill for in the experimental group is generally higher than the control group. The n-gain score in the experimental and control group showed that there were significant differences in almost every indicator of student communication skill. It means that the project-based learning model contributes significantly to student communication skill in the experimental group. For the detailed result, we can see in the table 2 and table 3 in here. So for the conclusion, improving student communication skill in the study reflects the science knowledge that have been built through the learning process with project-based learning. This shows that project-based learning that is applied in learning in elementary school also impact other academic achievements such as collaboration skill or social skill. The 21st century skill are related to higher order thinking such as critical and creative thinking, content knowledge, and also self-directed learning. And the next journal has a title, The Efficiency of Online Learning Environment for Implementing Project-Based Learning, Student Perception. The author is Atef Muhammad Abu Maid in 2020 in International Journal of Higher Education. For background, project-based learning approach has been supported by research-based theories. Constructivists believe that learning is a journey of discovering meaningful information as students create their own understanding from the learning experience based on what they already know, which is emphasized by project-based learning. Therefore, as an active student-centered form of instruction, project-based learning has a strong connection with the constructivism. And this research has two research questions, which are the first, what are the perception of the student on project-based teaching method and how online learning environment can impact project-based learning from student point of view. And for the research goal, this research has aimed to examine student perception of the impact of online learning environment on project-based teaching method. For the methodology, for the participant, 154 students studying computer in education course were selected during the first semester of the academic year 2019 and 2020. The experimental group consists of 75 students who study the course online and 79 students in the control group who study the course in a face-to-face mode. For the research instrument, for the purpose of gathering data, a questionnaire was developed which consists of 17 items and student answers were a 4-point Likert scale. For point 4 is strongly agree, 3 agree, 2 disagree, and 1 strongly disagree. And for the procedure, students in both groups were asked to submit 3 progress report during the semester documenting and reflecting on challenges and problems they faced while working on project. For data analysis, the data obtained were analyzed using IBM SPSS in order to calculate means, standard deviation, and ANOVA. For the result discussion, there are table 2, table 3, and table 4. For the table 2, the overall mean for student response on the questionnaire was high, that is 3.36 with a standard deviation of 0.715. So students in both groups expressed high positive view of project-based learning. And for the table 3, show that in class group had stronger view of project-based learning with a mean 3.45 and standard deviation of 0.68, while the online learning student had mean of 3.27 and 0.74 standard deviation. And for the table 4, showed significant difference between students in both groups in their perception on the impact of online learning environment on the implementation of project-based learning. The differences show that the in-class student had better learning experience of project-based learning than students in the online learning group. So they had a better perception of the project-based learning in online environment. Okay, so for the conclusion, Project-based learning is gaining increasing popularity for its potential to improve education by giving students more responsibility of their learning and giving them an active role. In addition, school can make sense of their learning through project-based learning as they are required to present products that show their learning and effort. As online learning is also spreading and many courses worldwide and being shifted from the in-class to virtual world, it is legitimate to question and effectiveness and potential of new learning modes and their ability to foster certain teaching strategy. Okay, for the last journal has a title, The Effect of Project-Based Learning on 7th Grade Student Academic Achievement. The author is Oktay Kapan and Oktay Bektas in 2017 in International Journal of Instruction. For background, project-based learning is one of the constructivist teaching strategy and is getting more and more common in science education. Although there have been considerable research studies investigating the effectiveness of project-based learning on science achievement, there are limited studies investigating the effectiveness of project-based learning on chemistry concepts such as particulate nature of matter. For the research question, what is the effect of project-based learning as compared to traditional instruction on 7th grade student academic achievement in the structure and properties of matter? And for the research goal, this research has aimed to determine the positive and negative condition during the application of project-based learning on the structure and properties of matter. For the methodology, the first one is research subject or population and sampling. In this study, accessible population was the 390 to 7th grade student in Jesu, which is one the province in Kayseri. The sample of the present study was composed of 38 students in secondary school, 18 students in the experiment group, and 20 students in the control group. And for the research design, quasi-experimental design, which is one of the quantitative research method always used to test the effect of project-based learning. Quasi-experimental research is to measure outcome for program participants without random assignment or non-random. And for the data analysis, descriptive statistic and inferential statistic were used to analyze the data of the STM80 by using SPSS 20 package program or independent sample t-test. And for the data collection instrument, the structure and properties of matter achievement test, lesson plan, and observation checklist. So for the result and discussion, there are table 4 and table 5. According to a result from table 4, there was no significant mean difference between the experimental and control group in terms of the pretest score of structure and properties of matter. According to a result from the table 5, there was no significant difference between the achievement post score of experimental and control group. So we can conclude based on the result, there is no significant difference between the experimental and control group score, which is obtained from the achievement test post-test performance. Although the mean score of experimental group is higher than the mean score of control group, it's seen that is difference between the mean score is not significant. So for the suggestion, pre-activities based on project-based learning should be performed for the adaptation of student and teacher before treatment. And this is the reference for each journal. So that's all from me. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.